Hi, Raphael.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Uh,
we can go ahead and get started whenever. So we'll just do that. Thank you guys for being here for these career and impact conversations, specifically for this section, the social impact and advocacy piece. We're really excited to hear from you. I will be facilitating this conversation with my partner, Jillian, who I'll let introduce herself in a minute. But my name's Brooklyn, and I'm a senior at App State this year. I'm a psychology major with a minor in leadership studies, and on campus I'm involved in the leadership department, and I am the president of the American Red Cross Club. So I'll send it over to Jillian.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jillian. I'm also a senior. I'm a geology major, and on campus I'm involved with the ACT team and ASE specifically. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And if you guys will just go through and introduce yourself, possibly starting with Amanda, if you would introduce yourself and just give us like a brief introduction of your organization and just about you.
Thank you all. My name is Amanda Jacobson, and I work for United Way Suncoast. The Suncoast is the central west part of Florida. So if you're looking at the Gulf, that's where we are. And I live in the Tampa area. So you guys may have seen us a little bit in the past week. We won a big football game. And at Appalachian, I was involved with apps, and I worked for the student programs department. And after graduation, I was actually involved with ASE, and I brought a couple of different ASE trips down to the Tampa Bay area to work with our at-risk youth in the Tampa Bay community. So it's been a pleasure to continue to remain involved as an alumni. My role at United Way Suncoast is I'm the senior giving manager there. And so I work with our different giving communities and get them involved and getting back involved in our work and giving to United Way Suncoast to help fuel that throughout the community. And thank you guys again for being here. I look forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Cannon, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Cannon Leavelle, graduated from App in 2006. I was involved on the impact team. I was the co-chair, I guess, my senior year. And I led the MLK Challenge and the big sale / don't throw it away. I think y'all still do those things.
Yeah, we do.
And I was part of Watauga College at Appalachian. Now I live in Washington, D.C., where I work at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Raphael, if you would introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here again. I am Asumani Ramazani, known as Raphael. I'm the employment specialist at World Relief Triad in High Point. So World Relief is a refugee resettlement agency, which I was one of the refugees that came through that agency 2.5 years ago. And I've been volunteering with them for about 2 years and 3 months now. Oh, so for 2 years and 3 months, and then for the last 3 months, I've been a full-time employee there. So, yeah. Originally from DRC Congo.
That's amazing. So cool. It's so great to have all of you here and to have your perspectives on our topics today. I'm going to go ahead and just kick us off with our first question. So just tell us a little bit about your organization that you work for, and just help us understand what your specific role is in the organization and like what type of work that entails. Yeah, and we can just go in the same order if that's easier. Yeah.
That sounds great. At United Way Suncoast, you guys may be familiar with United Way. At the Suncoast location, we focus on financial stability, youth success, and early learning. United Way as a whole, when you're looking at it internationally, focuses on education, financial stability, and health. And so that might look different in different communities. I'll give you an example. So on the east coast of Florida, we have a much larger opioid crisis than we have here on our side of Florida, but we have a much more disproportional issue with people having access to childcare and early learning. And so that's kind of our focus. And you'll see that different United Ways focus on different specific things, but they're all under those three umbrellas of health, education, and financial stability. So a little bit about that. And then my specific role is getting people involved in the community to give and to be able to volunteer and give back. And so my focus areas are women in philanthropy, young professionals, and then our annual givers who are really involved from a longevity perspective with United Way. So people who are investing $10,000 a year into our work, and they're making a commitment to do that year after year. So very different groups, as you can see, some people who are more giving in the gift of time, and then some who are giving more financially. There's a lot of diversity in that, in those groups. So, and I started at United Way actually as the Women United manager. So I was just focused on women's philanthropy, and they said, we actually would like to look at philanthropy a little bit larger and really place a greater focus on that diversity overall. And that's been a really great thing. Prior to working at United Way, I actually started in social work after I graduated from Appalachian, which was a little surprising because I got my degree of public relations, but you don't always use your degree specifically, but you of course can use those skills in different ways. And so I started in social work, and I found it to be very helpful now as someone who does fundraising and a lot of community organizing, because I can tell the story of, the people who are in our community and who it really affects. And so that's been a great skill set, even though I don't currently work as a full-time programmatic person anymore, more on the other side of the nonprofit sector.
Awesome.
Sure. So I'll go ahead. So I actually work at an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services called the Office of the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology, ONC for short. And what we do is we support the adoption of health IT, and we promote the adoption of nationwide health information exchange, kind of with a goal to improve health for all Americans, having high quality care, lower cost of care, healthy populations, and engaged patients who are really engaged in their healthcare by having access to their information and being able to use health IT tools. Some of the specific ways at ONC that we do that, we do it through regulation. So we have a couple of regulatory authorities going on. We do funding opportunities and grants. And then we also just coordinate closely, and we're pretty in lockstep with our federal partners, with our state and local partners, with healthcare systems, and with healthcare technologists. And then what I do specifically there, I work on our public affairs and communications team. So kind of on a day-to-day, it's a very big picture operational, dealing with kind of the rolling out of our various activities and announcements. I also deal with our stakeholder events, which I'm able to very often I lean on what I learned working with the impact team on that. And we do that because, kind of like you were saying, Amanda, and actually I was a fundraiser before I came to the federal government, but it's about telling a certain story and getting our message out to stakeholders about our work and the impact, the upstream impact of our work.
Thank you so much for sharing. Raphael, can you share a little bit about your organization and your role?
So as I said earlier, my organization is called World Relief. World Relief has about 20 offices in the US and is in about 20 countries around the world. So World Relief is an organization that serves refugees, immigrants, and victim of why am I running out of words here? Victim of human trafficking. Mm-hmm. So as I said, our primary role is, most people don't know, is that the US receive a lot of refugees and they come through these agencies. We have different agencies beside World Relief that do the same work. And World Relief is a government-based funded It's about 60 to 65% funded by the government, and the rest come from people like you and I that volunteer, from churches, from different people that give their time, resources, and money to kind of keep this going. And my role there is the employment specialist, and my job is, when you come to a new country, the first thing everybody needs to do is kind of settling, and my job is to get them settled in finding them jobs. And with that comes the issue of English as a second language, which we enroll them also. And we have issues of transportation, which we also provide, as well as childcare. So I'm under the department that is called the Opportunity Services, which the employment falls in. And with the Opportunity Services, we have employment as well as youth mentoring. So youth mentoring, they mentor young adults from the age of 12 to 25, some of the refugees that come, they help them set the goals and kind of follow their career path on what they can do, what they can become, and what they envision themselves to become, to be in this country. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for your introductions. I'm gonna move us along to our next question. So what like specifically inspired all of you to pursue your job that you're in? Was there like something or someone that inspired you to do it, or is it just like it just happened upon you? So, Amanda?
When I graduated from Appalachian, I directly relocated to Florida. And so unlike a lot of people who may have had the benefit of relocating somewhere like in the state or somewhere a little bit closer, I really didn't have the same like network to lean on. And so I applied for many different jobs and was fortunate to get a job where I was originally tasked to match up community members with at-risk youth to be their mentor. And I said, that's great. I'm a PR major. I've done a little bit of work with ACT. That sounds something I can do. And then they said, can you work with kids 1 day a week? And I said, well, of course, like I've worked at a summer camp, that's fine. They failed to mention was all of the clients that we served had been in and out of the juvenile justice system, some for many, many years. So these weren't any kids. These were kids who had very unique circumstances that, framed their life experiences. And I actually ended up loving it. I really enjoyed it, and also realized how little that I understood about what a lot of those kids' journeys had been prior to me working with them. And that I was one piece, right, in their whole life frame. These kids have been raised in communities that were, very underserved communities that didn't have the resources they need. And that's how many of them fell into the juvenile justice system. And then many of them spent years of their life in there. I had one client in particular. He had his first drug trafficking charge at 8 years old. And I had him by the time he was 14 or 15. And so when you think about that, that's a pretty long length of time to be so formally involved in a system like that. And it really struck me that these issues that had that client in that situation were lack of childcare growing up, were food insecurity issues, there were housing challenges, there were a lack of support that the parents had growing, when they were pregnant with him. There were so many different things that led to that. It wasn't just a kid who, maybe wanted to make a little bit of extra money. There was a lot more to that. And so that made me really think this is something that I need to be involved with. And there's so many different avenues to help. It could be continuing to be in juvenile justice, or there are so many other ways that you can help kids and families, really be able to get a little bit closer to solutions that work for them in their community and help them find their own solutions that work best there.
Yeah, that's some very important work. Wow. Cannon?
Sure. So, I kind of, in terms of my current position and my current workplace, I very much, I don't want to say accidentally fell into it, but I definitely kind of just fell into it somewhat unexpectedly. And, you know, like I said before, I started my career as a fundraiser, so I've definitely already, you know, experienced one of the several career changes that they say people will take over the course of a lifetime. But, you know, kind of in terms of what got me on that, even sort of the nonprofit public service path, I think really was my experience at App. You know, when I came in as a freshman, I was a communications major. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I knew it involved like a corner office and a big apartment in New York City. But, you know, like I said, I was a part of Watauga College, so that kind of gave me exposure to just a kind of really refreshing and progressive group of people with really great ideals, I think. And then at my sophomore year, I joined the impact team and started to kind of get an idea of what it's like to be involved in service. Although interestingly, when I was graduating, I was looking at grad programs to go into college student development, and that was sort of the path that I was on, except that I did 2 years of AmeriCorps service first, and I was like, you know what, I kind of like this nonprofit thing, so I kind of did the nonprofit thing for a little while, and then as sometimes happens in the nonprofit life, I experienced a layoff. And then fell into the federal position that I'm in now. But I think the kind of through line that I've experienced the whole time is this notion of giving back through service, whether it be volunteer service or the kind of nonprofit service that Amanda, you just described, or federal service, you know, working kind of for all of the American people through the federal government.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear the like throughout your life the impact that impact team had on you, and like
seriously, it's yeah,
so,
it really has, and I don't say that just because I'm like here in this forum. It's really something that I am proud of having done, and that I think really set me on this path.
Yeah.
You mentioned student development. I thought of doing the same thing when I was finishing it up at App, and then I just I found this role, and then I eventually kind of fell into fundraising too. So I realized we weren't reaching all the gaps, you know, with the programmatic work I was doing, that we needed more funds for that. And I realized I like doing events and I like raising money, so I can do that indirectly and still provide, you know, a way to help, and it doesn't all have to look like the same position, you know. So I'm glad you touched on the kind of the diversity of the different roles that you can be in the sector.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Raphael?
So for me, if you allow me to go a little bit back in history, my own history, of course. So I was a very sick child at the age of maybe 5 months to 8. I would say from the time I was born to 5 years, I was a very sick child, to a point where there was a time when my mom was sent back from the hospital saying that, you know, you can just wait for his time because there's nothing we can do anymore. But fortunately, for some miracles, there was a doctor who came from overseas and was able to attend to me, and I got better. And growing up, I had this thing, I wanted to become a doctor so I can help other people, specifically a pediatrician. So I finished high school back home in Congo. I went into medical school, and unfortunately, because of the war and family situation, I could not finish. I was in my second year. At the age of 19 or so, I think I tried every other way, couldn't work. So I was, things got so bad back home. So I was a refugee in Namibia, in Southern Africa, for about 8 years. While I was there, I realized that I love people. I love serving people. So I was involved in every activity that was in the camp. I helped with the distribution, food distribution, and I started to teach French. I taught some young science courses like mathematics and physics. And I had the privilege to be a youth leader for about 3 to 4 years of massive schools that I could reach out to them. I had an opportunity to teach some language again to some students to prepare them for vocational schools. And at that time, that's where I realized, okay, this is something I can do since I didn't get the chance to finish medical school. So when I was resettled here and live and going there every day, and I could see the need in care in terms of, when a new family that comes to a new country, they don't know the language, they don't know the culture, they don't know anything. And it was very difficult every time I go there seeking for assistance from them, I would see other people that also needed the same assistance that I had. The only advantage with me was I could speak the language already, could speak English, which I had to learn the hard way. And I say, okay, if there's anything I can do. So I started volunteering right away. It was a few months in, about 2 to 3 months in the country. And it was an amazing experience. And as we're helping with my fellow approached me to work with them full time. So that's what I'm still doing currently, and I love every second of it. So there is so much to the story, but just in a nutshell, that's what serving the people that my fellow brothers and sisters that I know they're in the same situation. I know from experience where they're going through. So it kind of helps me. If it makes me feel like, there's an impact. I'm putting something in their lives, and as well as I'm receiving something from them as well too.
Absolutely. Thank you for expanding on exactly like how you're involved in your organizations and the social impacts that you guys are having. I'm gonna ask another question, and I think we're gonna start with possibly Cannon answering first this time, just to spice things up a little bit. And I just kind of want to know, like, how does your organization determine what needs to be advocated for? Because I understand, like, maybe specifically in like Raphael's situation, like working with refugees is really important because they need help finding a job and they're in a new place and like all of these things and stuff like that. But like, how does your specific organization, I guess, choose the issues that they want to target and try to attack and solve problems for?
It's an interesting question. It's a loaded question. Kind of knowing that my organization is the federal government. I mean, in some ways, we don't necessarily choose so much as we're told by Congress. So Congress passes laws and says like X, Y, and Z needs to be solved, and A, B, and C agency, you need to solve it. Hopefully, they'll give us money with which to solve it, although not always. It also depends on who's in the White House. So the different administrations, even though generally they have, according to what Congress tells us, a certain set of things to do, they'll often carry it out in different ways. But I know that kind of across the board, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's on the Hill, what I think is really special is that the various federal agencies out there, and I'm sure this is true at the state and local level, as well, we're always making sure in some way we're connected to the people that we serve. Often, through that some sort of like, frankly, complicated stakeholder like process. But at the end of the day, like we're still making sure that we're talking to our stakeholders, making sure that we're talking to kind of the constituents that are out there so that we can really understand and get a handle around the kind of policy issues that we're grappling with when it comes to actually carrying out what we're asked to do.
Definitely. Thank you. Raphael, do you want to take a turn? I know I kind of briefly commented on your career and such.
Sure. It's quite broad, but to simplify it, just to go back to the U.S. history. The U.S. is built up by immigrants and refugees. So, and every time you have new people coming in, of course, they need assistance. They cannot make it by themselves. Everything is new. And I had the privilege, 3 weeks after I arrived in the country, I had the privilege to go to the Capitol with a team of world relief staff, a person or somebody who represented the refugees in North Carolina. So it was a massive honor to kind of go and speak to some senators and a representative about the issues that refugees are facing and things that refugees need. So I would not say we have like a priority, because the priority is already in the name. We serve refugees, we serve immigrants, we serve human trafficking victims. So we look into it covers everybody. It covers all of the people that falls under all of these titles. And the priority is just to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel at home, and to help them become self-sufficient, because that's the idea behind that. Because it's everybody's dream to be one day, whatever country they go to be welcome, to become a citizen at a certain point. And that's what we provide. We provide that home feeling. We provide that environment where everybody will feel like, I've arrived, I'm home. Finally, my American dream has become true. So.
Thank you.
And we advocate at United Way based on ALICE, which there's an ALICE report I believe in North Carolina, there's ALICE reports all over the country. And ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. And so a lot of times when we think about, can you guys hear me a little bit better now? Okay. A lot of times whenever we think about people who need support from the social services field or from nonprofits, we think of people who only would be utilizing what may be called as food stamps or EBT or something like that, your lowest level of income. But really, we have a lot of people across the country that are really struggling to afford basic expenses for housing and food, and they are employed. They are working, and they're just not making it. And so that's why we do a lot of studies on that area. So if you're interested in looking up in the study, it's called ALICE. So we base our legislative agenda that we have for this United Way, which is based in Florida, for our Florida legislation based on the needs of ALICE. So right now with COVID, we've seen a big spike in evictions. We've had a lot of people who are getting evicted, and when you get evicted, that's something that's on your record for housing for sometimes 10, 15 years, depending on from county to county. So it's a pretty it's a pretty difficult thing to move through. And if you have an eviction on your record, it's really hard to find new housing, and that leads to homelessness and so many other issues. So right now, one of the things that we're asking for is assistance with the Sadowski Housing Fund to make sure that that gets expanded and continues to be supported by the Florida legislator. So that's just one example, but our public policy initiatives, the things that we're asking for government to support, we have on our website every single year. And then we also share with our supporters, and with my role specifically, as I work with our women's philanthropies, I actually bring a group of our community leaders up to Tallahassee, which is our state capital, and they sit directly next to the senator representative, and they say, we need this many blank million in order to serve this many blank people from year to year. So depending on what the priorities are that we're asking. So it could be VITA, which is a tax preparation service that we provide to people so they can have their taxes filed correctly, and they can keep more of the money which they earn if they qualify for that. It could be different things like childcare. It depends from year to year, but that's a little bit of how that process works from the United Way perspective.
Perfect, thank you. And I think something really cool that I think all of you kind of touched on is that, like, you're not just saying like, this is what these people need. It's you're hearing from the people that you're trying to help, and with that information, then making plans on how to how your organization can be supportive to those people. And I think that's really great. Yeah. And then Jillian. Oh,
if I may add, I have because Amanda touched on something that also he had me a point that I wanted to also add, because we have a team. Our home office is in Baltimore, and we have a team that is also now working with on how we can serve DACA and Dreamers, because this is also an issue, an immigration issue. we hear a lot about it, and they found that there's also an issue that needs to be addressed. So this is one of the part that they've been working on and see how we can approach, as Karen said, it doesn't matter who is in the office, because whoever is in the office, they have to know about all of these issues, and we approach them, we talk to them about it, and we need their support, we need their help, we need their guidance, we need everything they have to kind of provide that go ahead, as well as the financial behind it. So this is, we have people that are working towards that as well as pushing on the numbers of refugees, because we have, there's a lot of refugees homes, they need a place to go. And our previous administration was kind of against the idea of receiving more people, while America is considered to be, the most welcoming country in the world. So we are grateful that the current administration has increased the number of refugees, which by the mid of this year, we might see a great increase in numbers of refugees that will be resettled to the US. So.
We have 2 questions left and about 15 minutes. So Jillian will go ahead and move to the next question, and then we'll start wrapping up.
Yeah. Amanda, or I guess of all of you, do you guys have any like career advice? Like something that you knew, like that you wish that you knew back then that you, oh my words are not coming out today. Something that you wish that you knew back then that you know now, or like anything like that? Any of you?
I think focusing on the problems you want to solve rather than and knowing that you're not going to solve any of them alone is like a good thing to keep in mind, rather than necessarily like what the role is or anything like that. That can kind of help make sure that your job task are really what you're looking for from your day to day. And then the other piece of advice I'd say is making sure like you're always asked and kind of recommended to have mentors throughout your life. And I totally agree with that. And I have many, and I'm very grateful for that. But instead of thinking that your mentor will be the same like shape or size from different areas that you're at, different stages you're on in life, thinking about what do you need from that mentor and making sure you share that. So for example, you might be really looking for someone who like is more of a coach. In another style, you may need someone who you can vent more to, or can like kind of more problem solve, and the difference between a problem solving and a coach is really different. And then I'd encourage you to also think about your mentors as really kind of looking at it as having your own personal board of directors. So there are certain people that I would not ask for advice on in one area, but I would only ask for advice on in certain areas, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that's not negative, like that's just really understanding the strengths of the people in the room and your different mentors in the community, and staying in touch with your mentors. I like, before I have like a new job or something like a life change, I always like to call them first, and they don't find out on social media. They find out because I say, this new position or this new opportunity was afforded to me, and in this area specifically, I was more prepared for it because you helped me with that, and that really shows. It keeps you connected, and also just really keeps you in touch with people who help ground you.
That's some really good advice, definitely. Anyone else?
So I like the fact that Amanda touched on mentorship, because it's very big and it has a huge impact in my life. I grew up without a father, so I had a man that kind of guided me through, my late, my late puberty, if I may use that word, and it was a privilege after making so many mistakes. But I think I would encourage you to find something. Don't go for the money, because it's easy to find a career where they pay a lot of money and you'll be miserable. And we see that a lot in our communities. And I believe that when I just mentioned that, you might have a picture of somebody, you know, whether from the media or family members or something. It's good to have money, but satisfaction is not coming from that. You know, you find satisfaction when you serve from your heart, and you see the impact that you have on those people you're serving. And you have the privilege to be educated in a specific area, go for it. And you know that what I want to do is not because I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a bigger house, a bigger car, whatever. But I want to see an impact in my community. I want to see an impact in my society. Be that person that you know there'll be a problem and you may be able to provide a solution or to be part of that solution. And if that's your mindset, I believe whatever you choose to do, it will be successful. Because success is measured by the amount of impact you have on people, not the amount of things you own.
And I would just add to kind of go with the flow. I mean, certainly in my experience, and I think I've heard this in Raphael and Amanda's story as well, like things aren't going to happen the way that you had them plotted out. And that's okay. And, you know, sometimes a job isn't going to work out, or sometimes a job isn't going to be what you thought it was going to be, or you're not going to end up doing what you thought you were going to be doing. And I think that's okay. I mentioned this earlier, but, you know, somewhere there's some statistic about how many career changes one will go through before they find like the right one. And to, you know, just like I said, go with the flow on that. I would also say, take advantage of opportunities that are presented to you. You know, if you're presented with a new project that might be a lot more work than you're used to, or something you're not sure that you understand, but person offering it to you is confident that you can do it, like go with that and try that out. Because I think the more you're able to learn about and be exposed to in your career, the further you'll be able to go, and the more you'll be able to do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate those perspectives. And that's all great advice. And I'm actually finding it true for myself as I'm getting ready to graduate. Like I'm finding my mentors, and I'm making sure I'm nurturing those relationships and those kind of things. And I'm finding that it's really helpful in like my job search and all of these kind of things. And just like educating myself on what that career would truly look like instead of what my idea of that career would be. So yeah, I appreciate everything you guys had to say. Our last question, just very quickly, if someone wanted to get involved in your specific organization, what, or like a similar career path, like what should they do?
Federal government's kind of tricky because, like, I mean, honestly, the federal application process is like notoriously not user friendly. I think that the powers that be, OPM, is like working on that, but I would imagine that the Career Center at App probably has some expertise in specifically how to navigate that. I would say, you know, there's generally in the government, there's also lots of government agencies have internship programs, which are paid. And that's often a really good pathway into a permanent federal career. Likewise, there's different educational programs, whether it be for undergrads or for graduate students that offer kind of pathways into permanent positions. So I would say that's a good start. I would say kind of talk to your career counselors about specifically how to navigate that process if you're interested in federal employment. And then I guess like don't hesitate to if people are on LinkedIn and want to be reached out to, reach out to them and ask them about the kind of work that they do and see if they'd be interested in talking.
Thank you.
I agree with that. The worst thing that happens is they don't reply. You know, they don't check their LinkedIn very often. So it's a pretty minimal risk. I agree with all that. And then I'd also say another recommendation, if you're interested in working for a specific organization, volunteer there. You're going to learn a lot through volunteering there with how organized they are. How do they interact with other staff people? I mean, that's pretty critical information that's going to be important to a cultural fit and making sure that you're getting what you need from your employer. So I'd highly recommend that. For United Way specifically, it looks like the closest location to Boone is in Wilkes County, but I do know some of you guys are maybe remote for some of your classes, and there may be some in your home counties as well. So a little bit about that. And then if you ever have questions about the Suncoast area, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'll put my contact information in the chat if you have any questions about that. And we have locations all over the world. So tons of different opportunities to volunteer there.
Thank you.
With World Relief, I would say that I agree with what Amanda just said. First of all, volunteering is the best option, and because it gives you a broader perspective of the people you're serving as well as of the organization itself. With us, World Relief is not just about employment. So we also have different departments. There are those that deal with health and wellness, because we have families that come that have been traumatized. We have those that deal with outreaches. We have those that deal with fundraising. We have those that will deal with the employment. So we say it's different portions, and everybody, I believe everybody can find where you can fit in to serve. I think also the other way is Amanda mentioned, find out more about that specific organization that you want to volunteer or you want to work with. Find out about the people or the community that they are serving, because that will give you more even to what you want to serve, because you might find a loophole that even that organization, it might be working in existence for so many years, but they never try to reach out to a specific issue. And you might be that person who will come and bring that to their attention. And you find yourself that because of you, whether a volunteer or an employee or whatever your position may be, you find that because of what you just brought in, make a huge difference. And I would suggest that you really find out more, because we have an office. We also have another office in Winston-Salem. That's the closest, I think, where our offices are. And there are also other refugee agencies where around the Triad, and I think closest to Boone, they're around here in the Triad. On that, I can as well provide my information as well as the organization information in case you wanna read more.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys for taking your time out of the day to come and talk to us. This was amazing. I loved hearing about all of your jobs and what got you there and everything. Brooklyn, do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, just thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you guys and the work that you do, and you being willing to come and talk to us. And hopefully this will help a lot of other students who are looking into careers in social impact and advocacy. So yeah, you're free to go, but thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and a privilege.
It was really fun.
It was fun. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.